So September 28th, red letter day for both campaigns. The second and final debate, Glenn Youngkin criticized Terry McAuliffe's veto of a bill that would have allowed parents to opt their children out of reading material that had sexually explicit content. And we all remember Terry McAuliffe responded first, yeah, I stopped that bill, and then he uttered the 12 infamous words, I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach. I know from listening to others in your campaign, within minutes, you were turning that into an ad.
Yeah, we had, you're always looking for, with the airwaves saturated with, back and forth. We were trying to run a positive campaign, but at this point, we've got to put some negatives on the air and get McAuliffe negatives up. And we were looking for some way to tap into this parental frustration without tying it to one specific thing or another. And generally it was, what side are you on, right? And that was a moment that we said, well, this is a clippable, this is not editorializing. This is not Glenn Youngkin saying that Terry's doing this or some disembodied voiceover saying that Terry believes this. This is Terry saying it. And we, I think we put it in 6 different ads. We had one up within hours and then started running it on TV as soon as we get to stations the next day. Because basically it was about, in our mind, it was about sides and people, like we talked about earlier, frustrated with the school administrators, and that sounded a lot like, hey, just let us handle it. I'm the pseudo-incumbent, and the way that it's been going is the way it should keep going, and stop making all this noise. So, we thought that was pretty powerful.
And you were saying your phone was buzzing within minutes.
Wasn't even Twitter was telling me to make it into an ad before we even had a script written or anything. It was like, because I think people were just, people who were watching on TV were just kind of jarred that something that concrete would come out.
Yeah. Michael, did it hit your campaign? There were a lot of other topics in that debate that night. Yep. Did it hit you right away as a gaffe? As something that you were going to have to worry about, or did that develop afterwards?
I think that it, so I'd say a couple things. One is the bill that was vetoed, I think Terry felt really strongly that veto was the right thing to do and would do that again 10 times over again. Banning books and what that was about at its core, I think he fundamentally disagrees with. Other people may not, but I think that was some of these things have to be about integrity, and I think that was a place where he wasn't going to walk back the decision to veto that bill, nor should he. So I think there is that piece. I also, more broadly, as an issue, if this was as impactful and game-changing a moment that in this gaffe that was really going to shift things, Virginia had a shift from 2020 of 12 points. When you look at New York elections, 14 points. New Jersey, 14.5, maybe 15 points, and everything comes in. That is hard to argue that there was something unique that happened in that moment, that unless that moment reverberated to New Jersey and every other election in the country, it's tough to argue that moment was this huge shift. And it makes these conversations less interesting. It makes us admit, and I admit this all the time, that our relative power to influence things is very small. That there's a lot of money spent and all these things happen, but in the end of the day, it's about candidates, and far more often, it's about a broader kind of national mood that is moving one way or another. Maybe that tapped into a little bit, but again, there's no quantitative evidence that would suggest that, especially when you look nationally at these other races.
So observers might say that's a turning point, but not in your mind, not in the campaign's mind, and not you either.
I think we can agree on that point,
yeah,
right? We are two pretty smart guys, but we can't move.
Okay.
Not
me.
We can't move hundreds of thousands of votes with a stroke of our pen or some micro-targeting or messaging campaign. It's more fun to talk about campaigns, as it was one moment that changed everything. It's a little less boring to say, you saw it in the poll. We were on a march up, slow march up. Terry had started to drift. Things were starting to get close right around when we wanted it to. That helped bend the curve, but if we hadn't, started, we started on TV, 6 weeks before Terry did. I don't think if we had laid down this groundwork, then we would have been able to take advantage of this opportunity. If we were just some Republican who whoa, and jumped on a gaffe. There's moods and shifts that is beyond campaign operatives, and it's beyond candidates even.